Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So, we've talked about the New York Stock Exchange and, index funds and all these other things. Well, today we're going to talk about the Dow Jones, more specifically the Dow Jones Industrial Average, right? So, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is also known as the Dow, right? Here recently, within the past, I don't know if it's been a year or not from when I'm making this video or, 8 months. I'm not sure the exact date, but there were some really big changes that happened, right? Some of these changes were kind of a big deal, right? We talk about Salesforce replaced Exxon, Amgen took the place of Pfizer, Honeywell replaced Raytheon, right? And a lot of this happened after Apple's 4-for-1 stock split, right? Which ended up dropping the share of Apple, like the share price went down by 75%, right? And because the Dow is a price weighted index, which by the way, we're going to talk about that a little bit later if you don't know what that is. Apple, after its stock split, has less weight in this index, right? To maintain the technology sector weighting, the Dow had to make a couple adjustments. We're going to talk about membership changes to the Dow, right? Because they're really uncommon. So, what do some of these changes mean for you as an investor, right? Well, first, a little history about the Dow, right? So, in the early 1880s, Charles Dow and Edward Jones, who are the co founders of the Wall Street Journal, create the first U.S. index, the Dow Jones Railroad Average. This index consisted of the largest railroad companies to measure their economic impact. Because of that index's limited popularity, Dow and Jones created the Dow Jones Industrial Average in the late 1890s, mid 1890s. This is what we now know as the Dow. It was made up of the largest industrial companies in the United States that had monopolies in their respective industries, right? Rubber, tobacco, oil, sugar. The Dow's current form is based largely on changes during the 20th century. So, in the early 1900s, the index went from about 10 or 12 stocks to 20. And then around 1930, it went up another to 30 stocks, where it is today. So, for the first half of the 20th century, the Dow remained largely focused on industrial stocks. However, in the second half, right, more non-industrial stocks entered. Think Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Disney, McDonald's, Walmart, right? All of them started joining. Okay, so why do companies enter and exit? Well, the S&P Dow Jones indices or indexes, one of the largest index providers, it doesn't have concrete objective rules for what stocks should be included in the Dow. But there's some guidelines, right? Very general, very I would say general, very loose. So the first guideline or rule is that members should broadly represent the US economy and stock market. As a result, the index today is going to try to equally represent sectors in the US economy, healthcare, technology, financial services, manufacturing, energy, consumer. Despite its name, it's no longer an industrial focused index. The next guideline is that companies should represent recent economic trends. Okay, so as an example, a large tech, as large tech companies got, more and more influence in the U.S. economy over the past 15, 20 years, a lot of the tech stocks received Dow invitations. Intel, Cisco, Apple, right? But that's about it, right? Because it's difficult to find any more trends anywhere, and why some companies enter, why some companies left, right? Especially when, like, let's say a company is removed and then it's reinvited, right? So, as an example, like Chevron, it was in the Dow from I think, 1928, 1930, up until almost 2000. And then all of a sudden, around 2008, 2009, it gets invited back and it's still there, right? And then another one, Honeywell. Honeywell was removed. So when Chevron was added back, that same year that Chevron was added, Honeywell was removed. But now all of a sudden Honeywell's getting added back. So it's like, what are the rules here? Like what's actually going on? So sometimes it could be kind of a pain, right? So some common concerns with the Dow, right? Because of a few factors, the Dow isn't the best gauge of the US stock market performance, right? So the first thing we're going to talk about, it's a price weighted index, right? I said we were going to get to this. A price weighted index takes the average of all stock prices. So let's take an example, right? There were only 12 stocks when the Dow first started. So the average was the sum of all prices divided by 12. Because the Dow now has 30 stocks, it's reasonable to think the sum of all prices divided by 30 would give us the average. However, company stock splits, spin-offs, and other corporate actions alter the math behind this calculation. Instead, the sum of all 30 prices is divided by what's called the Dow divisor, which is calculated. That the Dow divisor is calculated by the Wall Street Journal. Price weighted or price weighting prioritizes stock prices, right? So, which is an arbitrary indicator of stock performance. A more accurate measure of stock weight is market capitalization, or what's called market cap, right? This figure takes the stock price and multiplies it by the total number of shares the stock has. Many U.S. stock indexes, like S&P 500, the Morningstar U.S. Large Cap Index, they weight stocks by their market cap rather than their stock price. The next thing is that its stock selection process isn't clear cut. So, like because of Apple's stock split reduced the Dow's technology weight, the S&P Dow Jones decided to add another tech company, which was Salesforce. However, there are plenty of other tech companies that may, like a lot of people would say, would be better to represent the U.S. economy, like Google or Amazon, right? However, these companies have a much higher stock price than Salesforce, and it would result in the Dow overweighting in technology. The index needed to fill its technology gap, but at the correct price to match the Dow's desired sector weight, right? So then the third thing, it compromises only 30 stocks, right? Most mutual funds or index funds, could have hundreds of stocks in them, right? So the Dow seeks to broadly represent the U.S. economy and stock market, but it's hard to do that with only 30 stocks, right? So like the S&P 500, it does a better job because it looks at the largest 500 companies by market cap in the U.S. stock market. The Morningstar U.S. Market Index, which targets 97% of all U.S. stocks, includes about, I think it's right under or right over 1,400 stocks, right? So, I mean, it's just like, come on now, like 30 stocks isn't going to do it, right? You're thinking way too broad, right? So, although the Dow has strong name recognition, most investors don't really pay and really shouldn't pay that much attention. But other market cap weighted indexes are a much better representative of the U.S. stock market, right? Or just the U.S. market in general. And better benchmarks for your equity allocations, right? So hopefully, you got to know a little bit about the Dow Jones Industrial Average, where it came from, what it is, and hopefully you don't. I'm not saying don't use it for anything, but it's not one of the better things to look at, right? So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and give this video a like. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe down below. And until I see you guys in the next video, y'all be safe.